And Jesus appointed 12, whom he also named apostles, to be with him and to be sent out to proclaim the message and to have authority to cast out demons. Then he went home, and a crowd came together again, so that they could not even eat. When his family heard it, they went out to restrain him, for people were saying, "He has gone out of his mind." And the scribes who came down from Jerusalem said, "He has Beelzebul, and by the ruler of the demons he casts out demons." So Jesus called them to him, and he spoke to him in parables and said, "How can Satan cast out Satan? If a kingdom is divided against itself, that kingdom cannot stand. And if a house is divided against itself, that house will not be able to stand. And if Satan has risen up against himself and is divided, he cannot stand, but his end is come. But no one can enter a strong man's house and plunder his property without first tying up the strong man. Then indeed the house can be plundered. Mark 3, verses 14 through 17. This gospel reading made me think of an ancient folk tale which goes like this. Once upon a time, there was a brave and courageous young man. He traveled all over the country to find a place to settle and make his home. He found a lovely village surrounded by fields and orchards, with the sea to the west and the forest to the east. It was a beautiful place to settle. But the villagers were downcast and anxious. They were filled with fear and foreboding. He asked them, "Why are you so downcast and why are you so afraid?" "We are afraid of the terrible tiger that lives in the forest," they said. "I will kill the tiger and you can live in peace," the young man answered. He went into the forest and killed the tiger, and the people in the village rejoiced. But then, a few days later, they were again downcast and anxious and filled with fear and foreboding. "Why are you so downcast? Why are you so afraid?" the young man asked. "We are afraid of the terrible dragon that lives in the sea," they said. "I will kill the dragon in the sea, and you can live in peace," the young man answered. He sailed into the sea and killed the dragon, and the people in the village rejoiced. But a few days later, they were again downcast and anxious and filled with fear and foreboding. "Why are you so downcast? Why are you afraid?" the young man asked. "We are afraid of the terrible monster that lives in the fields," they said. "I will kill the monster in the fields, and you can live in peace," the young man said. He went into the fields and killed the monster, and the people in the village rejoiced. But a few days later, they were again downcast and anxious and filled with fear and foreboding. "What is it now?" the young man asked. "Now we are afraid of you. We don't want you to live here. Please leave our village and go far away and stay away forever." In this ancient folk tale, the young man wanted to help and do good, but in the end, his mysterious strength, his unusual power scared the villagers. It scared them more than the tiger in the forest and the dragon in the sea and a monster in the fields. In the same way, the power of Jesus, the power to heal, the power to make whole, the power to drive out demons, that power scared the people more than the demons themselves. How did he do it? How could anyone do all the things he did? Some said he has gone out of his mind. His family was alarmed and tried to restrain him. The government launched an investigation and sent scribes from Jerusalem, and the scribes concluded he has Beelzebul. He must be the ruler of the demons. How else is it possible that he has such power over them? But that doesn't even make sense, Jesus answered. If I really were the ruler of the demons, why would I cast them out? If I really were the ruler of the demons, why would I take actions against my fellow demons? After all, a house divided cannot stand. If I were the ruler of the demons, I would not attack them. To the contrary, I am here to end the power the demons have over you. Don't you know that no one can enter the house of a strong man without first tying him up? Once the strong man has been bound, then one can plunder his house. Who or what is the strong man? What does it mean to plunder his house? In the traditional explanation, the strong man stands for Satan, and the goods in his house are the souls which he has captured. Plundering the house of the strong man means liberating the captive souls. I grew up singing a beautiful German song about binding the strong man. It goes like this. Jesus ist kommen, der starke Erlöser, bricht dem gewappneten Starken ins Haus, sprengt des Feindes befestigte Schlösser, führt die Gefangenen siegend heraus. Fühlst du den Stärkeren, Satan, du Böser? Jesus ist kommen, der starke Erlöser. Unfortunately, no one has translated this song into English. But if I had to give a rough translation, I would say it like this. Jesus has come, the mighty Redeemer, binding the strong man inside his own house, breaking down enemies' fortified castles, freeing the prisoners, leading them out. In this traditional explanation, the strong man stands for Satan. But I think the strong man could stand for anything or anyone. Anyone or anything that has power over us, anything that stands between God and the people. The strong man could be anything that keeps people oppressed. It could be poverty or bitterness or systemic injustice or white supremacy. If you were to draw a picture of the strong man, what would you draw? Would you draw a monster, Satan, a person, a system, or something else, something like addiction? What do you think the strong man stands for? And if you were to imagine the house of the strong man, what would you imagine? A palace, a dungeon, a place like Guantanamo Bay, the county jail, an ordinary home in a suburb, an apartment in the city, a detention center at the southern border of the United States. How do you picture the house of the strong man? And if you were to imagine the goods which the strong man has stolen, what do you picture? People's hopes and dreams? People's dignity, their humanity, the ability to decide for themselves. And if you were to imagine the captives which the strong man keeps captive, whom would you imagine? If you were to listen to the sounds and sighs and cries of those captives, what would you hear? You might perhaps hear something similar to the words of Psalm 130, the psalm which we heard this morning. Out of the depth, I cry to you, O Lord. O Lord, hear my voice. Let your ears be attentive to the voice of my pleas. I wait for the Lord. My soul waits for the Lord more than watchmen for the morning, more than watchmen for the morning. Jesus came to bind the strong man and to plunder his house and to bring everything back, everything and everyone which the strong man has locked up. Jesus did all of this with the power of the Spirit, but then he insisted that that same power is also in us. Let's go back once more to the ancient folk tale of the village where there was a tiger in the forest and a dragon in the sea and a monster in the field. Do you think it would have made a difference if the young hero had talked to the villagers about their fears? Do you think it would have made a difference if they had all gone in the forest together? Jesus came to confront evil, not only for us, but also with us. As soon as Jesus called his first disciples, he sent them out to proclaim the message and to have authority to cast out demons. And as the gospel unfolds, Jesus constantly sends out his followers to do all the things that Jesus did. Jesus never acts like the lone hero who comes and does great deeds and then rides off into the sunset. Instead, he engages with the people. He talks and argues with them. He talks and argues about their fears and their beliefs. And then he gathers followers and allies. And he says, whoever does the will of God is my brother and my sister and my mother. And then he sends out his followers and his allies to perform the same acts of liberation which he himself performed. And then what about us? What about our fears? Who or what is the strong man in our time? And who is going to take on the strong man in our time? God is, but with our help. When we come together and act in community and work together and follow the will of God as brothers and sisters and the mothers of Jesus, then we can also bind the strong man. It is God's work placed in our hands. Amen.